All right, good afternoon, Central Georgia. Meteorologist Ansley Parker here, back with another severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued over here for Telfair and Wheeler counties. So this is a part of a whole cluster of thunderstorms that we've had this afternoon that has begun to stir up and really kind of just cluster together, which has created sort of this whole big picture that you can see here. Locally very strong storms, not the only area that's receiving some pretty intense weather at the moment, but this is the only warned area at the moment. So we do know that we are seeing wind speeds up to 60 miles per hour within that polygon, as well as likely looking like we see some reports of hail up to an inch in diameter. So those are kind of the main threats that have led this specific cell to be a severe thunderstorm warning at this time. And in fact, I am curious about the hail just because of how much lightning we have going on. So I will in fact go ahead and flip our hail core on just so we can kind of get a better picture of where our hail area is sitting. Looks like right now sitting in between the borders of Telfair and Wheeler counties and just shy of an inch in diameter. Let's go ahead and take a look at how big that is. Looking to maybe about half an inch in diameter. So the good news is this isn't quite as big as they were saying when they warned it. So hopefully that's a good sign that means this hail core will be dying down, and that won't be as big of a concern in the coming moments. My biggest concern at the moment here with this severe thunderstorm warning is just how much lightning there is going on. You can see all of those strikes accumulating there, right over there towards McRae. Lots of lightning, and that's kind of been the story if you've been tracking with us over the past couple of days. These storms, as they come through, have created quite the light show for us. Also very loud in these regions as well. Lots of lightning and thunder. You can definitely hear this storm coming if it's over you right now. So let me kind of just zero in on some of these areas here where this storm is kind of pushing towards next. And I'll flip our lightning off just so we can kind of get a closer picture of where this storm is. So right now kind of sitting in between McRae and Alamo, that looking to be the strongest area where we're seeing those kind of darkest red colors, meaning that's kind of where our hail is sitting, also where we're getting the heaviest rainfall right over here. This storm is pushing southeast, so making its way towards Lumber City in the next couple of minutes, just kind of continuing to push that direction towards the southeast. Let's see, let me get a reading on how quickly this storm is moving for you all. It is a very, very slow moving storm, so kind of really just sitting over one area at the moment. Looks like at this time, the storm is only moving at 15 miles per hour. So really, the areas that it's sitting over right now are going to continue to see effects from this storm for the next little while. Again, McRae, Alamo, Lumber City, all these areas kind of in the main polygon at the moment. These areas here on the parts of Telfair and Wheeler counties, again, kind of just seeing the most intense impacts from this storm. Give me a moment to kind of get some of my material together here. Again, yes, on the northeast part of Telfair County and the southwest part of Wheeler County. That's kind of where we're seeing the most intense impacts. But again, if we kind of take this out big picture, you can see that all of these storms down here in our southernmost counties here south of I-16, still very strong too. This is kind of the only storm that we have warned at the moment. But if you take a look here towards the north of Abbeville here, lots of lightning, still getting some pretty high reflectivity values, so some pretty heavy rainfall as well. And when we just flipped on our hail core, we saw that there was hail kind of taking place all over these storms, not just in our warned area as well. So definitely important kind of as these storms are hanging out with us this afternoon that you're paying attention to them, because as we've seen, these severe thunderstorm warnings can sort of just pop up out of nowhere with these storms as they kind of continue to sit over the same regions. Right now, the areas that we're looking at, and let me grab my pointer for you so I can explain what I'm talking about. These storms here, over here towards sort of Wilcox and Pulaski counties here, kind of making their way into Dodge County. Those storms do have wind speeds up to 40 to 50 miles per hour. So we know the threshold for severe weather, for severe thunderstorm warnings is 60 miles per hour. So over here in Telfair and Wheeler, that's where we're seeing 60 miles per hour in terms of wind speed, but still in all of these regions seeing just shy of that 40 to 50 mile per hour winds over here in Pulaski and Wilcox counties, even in North Dooley County, over here in Macon County as well towards Montezuma. So still all these storms still very strong, and you can just see the lightning continuing to accumulate in those regions as well. That's kind of creating quite the light show over here towards McRae and Alamo specifically. But let's go ahead and put this in motion still so we can kind of see what direction these are heading. Again, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but the storms are moving very, very slowly. Our severe thunderstorm warning itself is only moving southeast at 15 miles per hour. So that is extremely slow. I will go ahead and kind of time out where this specific cell is heading for you all here. But again, moving incredibly, incredibly slowly. So let's go ahead and get our tool here. See kind of where the most intense part of the storm is heading. Again, at 15 miles per hour. So it looks like it will be moving its way towards Jordan, Lumber City, and Hazelhurst over about the next 45 minutes or so. Now this is set to expire at 3:45 today, so hoping it does expire before it makes its way all the way down here towards Hazelhurst, because that will be after the time that the warning is set to expire. So hopefully we can continue to watch this thing kind of lose strength as it tracks its way down towards there. But at the moment, if we just kind of take this whole thing big picture for you and show you what's going on in all of central Georgia at the moment, we have this whole cluster of thunderstorms, again, mostly south of I-16, but you can start to see kind of over here towards our northeastern counties where we did see some severe thunderstorm warnings earlier here towards Spalding County. A few storms making their way in from Peachtree City. They'll likely be tracking here towards Lamar and Monroe counties in the next couple of hours. And again, we're starting to see some activity as well over here towards Hancock and Putnam counties, even here towards Milledgeville and Baldwin County, kind of making their way into Hancock County as well. So that's kind of the other areas of activity that we have going on today. And these thunderstorms, again, same kind of thing as yesterday and even the day before. These are going to be possible throughout the rest of the afternoon and likely into this evening as well. So it's definitely important for the rest of the afternoon and the rest of the evening tonight to kind of keep your guard up as we watch what these thunderstorms are going to do, kind of where they're developing. It's just another one of those days where we are in an SPC risk outlook. I can kind of show you that as well. Earlier, the SPC did only have our northernmost counties outlined in the risk, but now they have edited the risk to include all counties here in central Georgia. So that's why we're kind of starting to see these pop up in the south as well. So all counties today, definitely possible to see a thunderstorm that's locally very strong or even a severe thunderstorm warning as well. I am getting some reports of the storms over here towards Bleckley, Dodge, Houston, Pulaski, and Twiggs. So kind of zeroing back in on our areas south of I-16 here. So that's what this region that they're talking about here in the National Weather Service chat is this storm that I was mentioning earlier. They are still continuing to receive reports of wind speeds up to 40 to 50 miles per hour. And again, you can just see all of that lightning continuing to tick up. There's lots of lightning in this storm, and we can check on our hail as well and see if we're still kind of seeing some hail in this region. Again, when you're seeing all of these yellows and even the oranges, that's a good sign because we are still kind of sitting under an inch in diameter when we're looking at the hail core. If we're starting to see those yellows, even creeping into those greens or maybe even those blues, that's when hail becomes a bigger part of the problem, because that's when we're starting to see hail cores over an inch in diameter, and those are much more sizable, enough to actually do some damage. So luckily we're still kind of below that 1 inch threshold, so we'll continue to hope that we kind of stay below that at the moment. Again, also we probably are seeing some heavy rainfall as these storms kind of sit over the same region. Again, we moving very, very, very slowly. They're not moving very quickly, just kind of sitting. This storm that the National Weather Service has warned is again moving at 15 miles per hour, so that's incredibly slow. So as it sits over here in McRae and Alamo, it's really going to dump a lot of rain over here in Telfair and Wheeler counties. So definitely important to know if you're out there on the roads, especially, because that could create some problems for drivers out on the road. And again, we're starting to see a few cells pop up down here over towards Macon County, sort of making their way into Dooley and Crisp counties as well. And going big picture just one more time, kind of getting a picture of where the storms are beginning to roll in our northeastern counties. Again, we did see a severe thunderstorm warning over here towards Spalding, Pike, Lamar counties earlier today. It does look like a storm moving in from Peachtree City is kind of creeping its way into Spalding County. We may see some impacts here maybe in Lamar and Monroe counties in the next couple of minutes. And again, still kind of watching this storm over here in Hancock and Baldwin and Washington counties. There was, the National Weather Service was watching this storm earlier. The wind speeds were getting pretty high. They were creeping close to that 60 mile per hour mark. but it does kind of look like this storm is falling apart, so hopefully that's good news. It can kind of just continue to fall apart as it makes its way across central Georgia. So let's put this back in motion so we can kind of see where these storms are heading at the moment. Give me just 1 second to do that. All right. So again, mostly sitting over the same areas. Likely, if you're down here south of I-16, you've been hearing this thunder, seeing this lightning for quite some time now. We kind of started watching these cells pop up as individual cells, and they've really kind of clustered together to create more of a line effect over here south of I-16, and really just continuing to sit over the same areas. So looking right now, like over here towards Abbeville and Rochelle, seeing a lot of rain in Wilcox County here up towards Pulaski. Hawkinsville seeing a lot of rain, seeing a lot of lightning as well. Cochran about to see a lot of rain and lightning. And then over here in our severe thunderstorm warning, again, McRae, Alamo, still sitting kind of in the most intense part of that storm, but it is making its way here towards the Lumber City, kind of joining with another cell that is south of it. So Lumber City and Hazelhurst now starting to see some impacts from this storm, and I am seeing some areas of purple here on our radar, which sometimes can be an indication of a hail core, so I'm going to check on that just real quickly. Does look like we are seeing some areas of hail over here just to the north of Lumber City. Again, still kind of below that yellow color, which means we're still seeing hail cores that are less than an inch in diameter, which we'll continue to consider a positive sign, right? If we're seeing hail over an inch in diameter, that's much more sizable to do some damage. So it's good news that we still haven't seen that, but there is a little bit of hail just to the north here of Lumber City. Looks like we may even see a little bit of hail just here next to Hazelhurst. So definitely important to keep in mind, even over here towards Jacksonville. Still seeing some hail, just not quite as big as it could be to cause some concern. Let me flick back over to our reflectivity. So again, that storm kind of joining with a cell just to the south of it. So even outside of this polygon here, Lumber City and Hazelhurst not outlined in our polygon, but certainly seeing some effects from this storm. You can see it kind of joined with this cell that we have here. So even though you're not outlined in this polygon, Lumber City and Hazelhurst kind of just outside of Telfair and Wheeler counties, definitely still seeing some impacts from this storm as well. Even over here to the east of the polygon as well, closer to the east part of Telfair County over here towards Jacksonville. This cell, again, still packing quite the impact in this region. Again, we kind of, big picture, are noticing that even if you're not outlined in the specific polygon, there's still some locally very strong storms all across the southern counties of central Georgia at the moment. And again, we kind of can take it out even bigger just to kind of check on our cells that are over here towards the northeast, making their way in towards Lamar, Monroe counties right now, sitting over Griffin, looking like we're seeing lots of lightning in that region. I'll just go ahead and take you a little closer so we can kind of see the motion of this storm as well. It does look like it's started tracking its way into Spalding County. It looks mostly, though, like it's moving to the west, so maybe seeing some impacts over here in Butts County in the next couple of minutes. Zebulon's starting to catch a few of these cells that are popping out. When you can see this sort of green line here, that's an outflow boundary. So essentially, these thunderstorms are kind of pushing a boundary out that's giving way to possibly creating some more cells ahead of it. So when you kind of can see this green line, we usually can assume that maybe a few more cells will pop up ahead of that as well. So likely definitely could see a few more cells over here in Lamar, Butts County in the next couple of minutes. But again, this is not a warned storm, just definitely something to pay attention to because all of these storms that are coming across central Georgia right now are still locally very, very strong. And I'm actually going to see if maybe we can get a visual here on one of our sky cams. Give me just one moment to pull up the Perry sky cam, see if there's anything we can see in terms of what these storms are doing. Looks like Perry is definitely seeing some lightning, maybe just to the west. So give me a second to point our camera over towards the west here for Perry. You can definitely see lots of dark clouds over on the horizon, maybe even the shelf cloud from some of these storms here. I'm getting a few flashes of lightning as well, so let me go ahead and flip on the Perry sky cam for you all. You certainly can start to see that shelf cloud there, even some raindrops already Perry's already had a couple of showers here, but that's kind of where you can see that storm moving its way out towards the west, heading towards Bleckley and Twiggs counties. Again, that's kind of that shelf cloud. You can see all those dark clouds. Maybe even we'll catch a strike of lightning or two here in the next few minutes. Winds picking up as well. Again, the wind speeds in these storms are up to 40 to 50 miles per hour at the moment, but in our severe thunderstorm warning, a little bit higher, closer to 60 miles per hour. Now, I haven't gotten any updates about this storm, which usually is a positive sign. If they haven't extended the polygon or said that they're going to extend the warning any further, usually that's a good indication that hopefully it will kind of lose strength as it sits over these regions, and hopefully it'll be set to expire at the time it is. Again, it's supposed to expire in about 20 minutes, but it does look like the National Weather Service is talking a little bit about this cell here in the other part, the southern part of Telfair County, just over Jacksonville right now, saying that this cell does have wind speeds up to 40 to 50 miles per hour as well. And maybe even with the reflectivity colors that we're seeing here, we may even have a little bit of a hail core over Jacksonville as well. So again, that's kind of my main emphasis here. We're watching this severe thunderstorm warning right here in Telfair and Wheeler counties, but you can see our radar. Lots of lightning everywhere. Again, we're still looking at these higher wind speeds. Yesterday, when these storms kind of blew through the area, we had lots of reports of trees down, power lines coming down, just people losing power in general, lightning even striking buildings or objects or transformers, things like that. So certainly, as these storms roll across, the wind speeds are kind of one of my main concerns, and then also just the sheer amount of lightning we have has certainly posed an issue over the past few days. So again, let's kind of zero back in because we haven't talked specifically about our severe thunderstorm warning in a few minutes here. So let's kind of see the progression of how it's changing. Again, still lots of lightning over here in McRae and Alamo, just absolutely getting tons and tons of lightning strikes. You can see those just continuing to accumulate, and now some more lightning beginning to pop up towards Lumber City and Hazelhurst. Again, this is outside of our polygon, so I do kind of want to emphasize that our storm is tracking forward still and seems to be joining with a few cells out ahead of it, so starting to see some intense impacts over here in Lumber City and Hazelhurst, and then as it kind of joins with cells over here towards the east as well. The National Weather Service has told us that Jacksonville over here in the southern part of Telfair County starting to see wind speeds up to 40 to 50 miles per hour as well. So that's kind of the main story here. We even can maybe flip on our reflectivity or our velocity and kind of see where our strongest winds are in this area as well. So yeah, certainly still seeing some higher winds. We can see kind of a little bit brighter red over here in our severe thunderstorm warning, which means that we're still seeing some pretty high wind speeds. You kind of can see that brighter red color, our polygon unfortunately covering it up a little bit, but a little bit area of brighter red there, which means we are seeing some high wind speeds in that area as well. Again, so wind speeds still kind of a concern over here in Telfair and Wheeler counties, still seeing winds up to 40 to 50, or excuse me, 60 miles per hour in our actual severe thunderstorm warning. But the National Weather Service has just expired the warning for some areas behind the storm where it's kind of already passed through. So here, earlier we were watching, right, so let me give my arrow, Alamo, McRae, these areas that were in the polygon just a couple of minutes ago. Looks like the National Weather Service has let these areas expire, so that means the wind speeds have dropped down, not seeing as intense winds. And likely, the main part of the threat has moved forward closer here towards Lumber City and Hazelhurst. That's where I'm seeing kind of our highest values of where we're seeing the heaviest rains, and also, again, probably still seeing some hail. As they've cut this warning down, they still say that there are reports of hail down here where the polygon does still extend through. So yes, but still, even though they've been taken out of this, I mean, look at that. You can still see all those lightning strikes accumulating here in Telfair and Wheeler counties. So I definitely wouldn't say just because you're out of the polygon that it means it's time to head outside by any means. It's still very, very, very bright over there, likely very loud, and still, if we even flip off our lightning here, still lots of rainfall coming down in this region as well. When you start to see those kind of that green and all these yellows, that means that the rainfall is getting a little bit lighter. So maybe McRae starting to come out of this storm a little bit over the next couple minutes here. Alamo kind of creeping into those green areas as well. But, you know, with that lightning, still lots of lightning strikes in the area. So definitely not necessarily in the all clear, but certainly out of the highest area of wind speeds at the moment. So let me kind of take you back out. It's been a minute since we kind of took this big picture, and it does seem like our cells over here towards the northeast, Peachtree City and Griffin, are kind of accumulating more lightning strikes, maybe getting a little bit more robust as they kind of push here towards Lamar and Butts County again over the next couple of minutes. These cells, again, as we mentioned, are really sitting very still, right? As they move over these areas, these severe thunderstorm warnings, the one that we have issued here for Telfair and Wheeler counties is only moving at 15 miles per hour, which is incredibly slow for a thunderstorm. So they're sitting kind of over the same regions for long periods of time. And let me just go down here. Okay, I was just making sure our warning was still there. Our lightning seemed to cover it up there for just a minute. So yeah, still in a severe thunderstorm warning here for Telfair and Wheeler counties. Again, a few storms kind of straying over here towards Milledgeville as well. Lots of lightning in that region over here in Baldwin County, and a couple of cells popping up here in Hancock County as well, kind of making their way down into Washington. So that's kind of our other areas where we're seeing some weather, but again, over here towards Warner Robins, down here in the southernmost part of Twiggs County, the northernmost part of Bleckley County, still seeing some pretty intense impacts as well. I mentioned this earlier, but where our severe thunderstorm warning is where we're seeing wind speeds up to 60 miles per hour. But a lot of these storms still have reports of wind speeds up to 40 to 50 miles per hour as well. So we talked about this, but this is still strong enough to maybe blow down a few tree branches, or maybe even, whole trees out on the roads, maybe knock down some power lines or cause your power to surge. So certainly we're paying attention to our severe thunderstorm warning down there in Telfair and Wheeler counties, but even if you're not necessarily outlined in that exact warning, all of these storms across the really mostly south of I-16 here seem to be still very locally very strong as well. You can see lots of lightning strikes still kind of accumulating in all these storms, especially down here in Wilcox County, lots of lightning in that one. Even over here in Crisp County, starting to see a lot of lightning strikes accumulate here near Cordele. And again, this comes after we are in another level 1 out of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center here, meaning we had another chance all day to see some severe thunderstorms, really just strong thunderstorms. And again, our biggest threat for the afternoon is kind of to see some severe thunderstorm warnings as we are now. But this continues for the rest of the day and kind of into this evening as well. So I would say it's definitely important to keep paying attention to these as we creep through the afternoon, because as these cells just kind of started spurring up and joining with one another, that pattern can still continue to be possible through the rest of the afternoon and to this evening. Very similar to kind of what we've been sitting under over the past couple of days, where as they make their way into our environment and it's really warm and we have very high moisture in our atmosphere, central Georgia is just a good environment for these kind of cells to pop up throughout the afternoon, which, hopefully this is maybe cooling some of those areas down, hopefully maybe exhausting that atmosphere as well as these showers and storms kind of sit over the same regions. The hope here is that all of that rainfall that those areas start to get kind of kills the environment, meaning that we won't really get to see any more cells in that region. So that is the hope for the rest of the afternoon here, especially as so many of these cells have kind of joined themselves together here south of I-16. So let's talk a little bit about our severe thunderstorm warning one more time, just kind of give you a visual of what's going on down here. It does look like our areas kind of towards Alamo and McRae here in Telfair and Wheeler counties are really not seeing the most intense impacts. Definitely looks like this severe thunderstorm over here in Lumber City towards Hazelhurst and even Jacksonville outside of our polygon here to the east of, and there you go. So they have just expired the severe thunderstorm warning for this region. So again, still kind of seeing some pretty intense impacts here in Lumber City, Hazelhurst, even over here in Jacksonville as well. But the good thing is when they expire a warning like that, that is usually an indication that our wind speeds are below the severe thunderstorm warning threshold. So our wind speeds right now have dropped below that 60 mile per hour mark, which is a positive sign, a sign of weakening as the storm kind of makes its way out of our viewing area as well, kind of pushing out of Telfair and Wheeler counties. So at this time, that was our only severe thunderstorm warning here in central Georgia. Again, I do want to remind you all of these thunderstorms that we kind of have again south of I-16, and even a few cells beginning to pop up here towards the northeastern counties, towards Sandersville, and a few cells making their way in from the north to our northwestern counties. Those are going to continue to be possibly strong for the rest of the afternoon. Again, not necessarily warned, but that doesn't mean that they aren't still packing quite the punch. You can see all of the lightning striking across these regions, and those are going to continue to be possible for the rest of the afternoon and into this evening as well. So it's likely that we could see another severe thunderstorm warning from one of these storms as they kind of make their way across the area, and we're definitely just going to want to pay attention to your radar and to us here on Facebook and on the 13 WMAZ app as we kind of continue through the rest of the afternoon. We will be live at 5 and 5:30 and 6, so if any more of these severe thunderstorm warnings do pop up, we'll continue coverage there on 13 WMAZ. But because there are no more severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment, we're going to go ahead and hop off of the air. But continue to watch this environment, pay attention to where these storms are heading to, because again, we could see another warning issued later this afternoon. So for now, thank you so much for tuning in with us, and I hope you have a very, very safe rest of your afternoon and evening.